and welcome to the Possibility in Faith. I am joined with Rivky, and I am so excited to jump into this topic with you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's really exciting to talk about this topic because this is going to be coming on 1 year of us having this podcast. Our last podcast was before the Jewish New Year. Our first podcast was before the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and now we're a few weeks away from Rosh Hashanah. So it is really exciting. Our very first podcast was The Possibility in Faith. And we loved recording it. We so loved recording it. We got some feedback from some people that listened to our very first podcast that they felt like they came in the middle of a conversation as opposed to a conversation that they were fully included in, which was our learning curve inside of this podcast to be able to balance both of those things. So it feels really exciting to bring back this topic. I think from any and all topics, we love every single one that we speak about and deeply resonate with them. But from any and all topics, I think this is our favorite one to revel in and to be with and to embody the possibility in faith. So not only do Chani and I today bring you our words and the wisdom that wants to move through us and the wisdom that God, Hashem, wants us to channel, but we also humbly bring to you our embodiment and what we have gained and learned about faith through our own life experiences and through the way that we move through the world. And faith is something that I feel proud and humbled to share about. Some other things, it can feel like there are things that we can share that can feel like, oh, this is an experience that maybe not everyone needs. Everybody has a different life, everybody has a different soul journey. But faith is something that we all need. And we don't want to speak about faith without speaking about embodied faith, which is the visceral experience of walking through the world, having faith integrated in our reality, not just learning about faith, not just having the wisdom of faith, but having embodied faith. And I think that one of the things that helps bring faith back into our visceral reality is understanding that instinct, our instincts, our internal pulls, our internal desires, our intuition is the way God is speaking to us and the way God is speaking through us and the way God is leading and guiding us. And what I know about you, Chani, is that's something that you not only think about, but a way that you actually live your very real reality and life with and through. So I'd love to start by asking you the question of when did you start your journey into understanding that your instinct was God speaking through you? When did you start your journey into deeper consciousness and awareness? When did that moment click for you to understand that honoring your instinct is really the most radical act of faith?
Thank you, Rivky, first and foremost. And also, I resonate so deeply with faith not just being a concept, but truly a way of life, truly a way of navigating, truly a journey of holding hands with our Creator and walking alongside Him, both in times that feel joyous and celebrative and amazing and vital and awesome, and also remembering that in times that it doesn't feel as great or it feels a little lost or confused or dark, that God is still holding your hand. And it's the same God always. It's the same God that celebrates, and also the same God that causes tragedy. It's all one and the same. And so sometimes that's a dichotomy to hold. But if I could stay with it, I can realize that all of it is for me in some way. And the
Yes.
glimmer of hope and light and the silver lining does exist if I continue to trust in God in all ways, not in just the
Yeah.
picking and choosing of the times that it resonates and the times that it doesn't, because that gets even more confusing ultimately. I love the question that you posed, and it's a really interesting one because definitely on a subconscious level, I've been living with God all my life. I definitely always had a loving relationship towards God. For me, when I close my eyes, the embodiment feels like a father. God is compared to many things. He's compared to a king, he's compared to a master of the universe, lots of very esoteric concepts, but for me, my relationship with God feels like a loving, forgiving, I can't think of the word, it's like endearing father who, in some way, no matter what, he's going to find a way to make it good. It doesn't matter how much I've screwed up. It doesn't matter how much I've disobeyed. He's going to have space for me. He's going to have forgiveness. He's going to hold my hand and guide me towards where I'm heading. So I remember when I turned 30 years old and I was stepping into this new iteration of myself, and it was this milestone. And what came through for me was this statement that told me, you are a reaction to your own choices. So if you don't like what you're experiencing, then look at the choices that you're making and make a shift in that space. Which at that time, it literally blew up in my mind. I was like, what? Are you telling me that the consequences that I'm experiencing are my own choices? Holy moly, I cannot even. This epiphany
Chani,
was like an expansion of my mind I never considered.
Chani became woke.
Exactly. The moment of woke came upon me, and I was like, what? Oh my goodness. What an epiphany. What an
Yeah.
awakening to recognize that actually the one who is radically accountable for her own experience is myself. And so the first movement that I made with that consciousness was recognizing that every Friday night when I had challah, when I went to bed that night, it was really difficult for me to breathe. I was all up in the nasal spray, in the albasoil, rubbing it everywhere, like trying to get air in. I felt like everything was closing in on me and I literally couldn't breathe. And so when I had this thought, I was like, I wonder if I apply this to this reality. Because what I'm noticing is that every Friday night, I feel like crap. So
Mm.
what if I just stopped eating bread? I wonder what the result would then be. And so that's what I did. The next Friday night, I chose to not eat any challah. And that night, it was so wildly radical to recognize that one choice that I made in favor of listening to my body radically changed the way I felt, to the point that it made me make a decision to go gluten free. That's it. I don't want to feel that feeling ever again. And the way that I do that and the way that I create a reality with that experience is that I don't put it into my body, and my body thanks me for it every day. And I get to be in a life experience where that's no longer something I have to suffer from. And so,
Con,
yes.
your journey to consciousness started with gluten free.
Literally, it seems so silly in some
Yeah.
ways, but it was such a profound evidence
Yes.
that it was undeniable.
You saw
Sometimes,
it happen. You saw what following your instinct did to your reality.
literally, in such
Yeah.
a profound way that one small choice, one tiny choice can make such a radical difference in my entire being, in my entire
Mhm.
well-being, and in my entire way that I felt. And I was like, whoa. So once I built that evidence that was so profound, I was like, I wonder where else this could happen.
Mm.
I wonder where else I can pull this thread into my life in a way that's much more conscious, not because I wasn't in many ways, and not because intuitively and instinctively I was listening to many things inside of
Right.
myself, but to make the conscious shift into recognizing that I am a result of my own choices. What do I want to see in my life? What do I want to cultivate into my life? What do I want to experience and feel? And how can I orient my choices towards that result, towards the things that I desire? And what I realized is that the answer is inside of me. All I got to do is quiet the noise and listen inward. And that intuitive, instinctive knowing is there. And all I got to do is honor it. All I got to do is take it seriously enough. All I
Yeah.
got to do is allow it to be heard, that the whisper gets louder than the noise that's inside of me, of limited beliefs, of ideas of what I need to do for others, of all the other things that keep me away from what I am here to fully be in this world.
Beautiful.
So who knew? Who knew gluten free?
Yeah, it's just the gluten-free woke phase. So good.
Yeah, it was
But
funny because someone asked me that just the other day and I moved into something different, but I was like, wait, no, gluten free was actually my first conscious choice. It really was.
And I think that what's so cool that you just shared is that subconsciously you've been making choices, and obviously your life has been moving in beautiful, flowing ways before you were 30. And there were many choices that were being made that were in alignment with faith in God and with your instinct and with your intuition. And this was a conscious understanding. It's this click of, oh, wow, my instinct can guide my choices that can be for the betterment of my reality. And something as small, quote unquote, as this can really shift the way that I experience my life in the present moment. And God speaks through us. God tells us what is good for us, what is right for us, what is our journey. One of that prayer, that recovery prayer is like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to
Yes.
know the difference. I often tell my clients when they're going through a shift, whether it's in a relationship or in a career, it's the prayer that I give them and that I say myself to ask Hashem, God, is like, Hashem, God, please allow me the discernment to know when to take action and when to surrender. And please allow that discernment, that instinct, that instinctual knowing to be clear. Because I think something about the possibility of faith is sharing with our audience, and your story is such a perfect encapsulation of that, is sharing with because it's simple in many ways. It's like the
Yes.
results, it's so perfect, is faith and action is not mutually exclusive. When we're in faith, that doesn't mean we don't need to take action. It means that we need to follow our inner knowing. It's like that story with the taxi driver. We might have said it on another podcast, but there's this man who's waiting for a taxi and he's, you know what? I'm going to try a different way today. I'm going to, instead of working hard and hustling and putting my finger out and waiting for the thing, I'm just going to pray to God. So he prays to God and the taxi shows up. A taxi shows up a minute later and they're like, hey, are you looking for a taxi? And he's like, no, I'm praying to God. And it's like sometimes we can miss the messages, we can miss the instincts, and we can miss the actions when we're not actually recognizing that faith and action can and do come together. The manifestation is all the rage these days. Everyone and their mother is talking about how they can manifest their reality, how they can manifest their desires. Most people have read The Secret. People have read every manifestation book that they can get their hands on. Everyone wants to know how to create the reality, how to co create with the divine. And I really believe that some of the manifestation work out there is very focused on external shift. It's like, how can I bring this thing to me quickly? How can I get this thing? But I think that some of the most potent manifestation, and I consider myself to be a very powerful manifester, that's the self concept that I hold of myself. One of the most successful ways to manifest is actually to go inward, because not everything that I want is meant for me. And when I
Yes.
can go inward, I can see that, I can accept that, and I can surrender, and I can co create with the divine in actually a productive way. I can align my will with the will of the divine instead of, because sometimes the things that we try to manifest are actually in avoidance to, we're trying to create something to avoid feeling something else, as opposed to what our soul really desires. But when we can feel into our soul's deep inherent wisdom and what our own unique soul blueprint that only we have once, it creates a very quick, effective, beautiful manifesting experience. I'm curious to hear what you were going to say because it looks like you're excited
Yeah,
to
I was
say.
just thinking about a friend of mine who was manifesting. It's a work that she wanted to be doing. She's a designer and she's trying to manifest clients and bringing things towards her. And it was just becoming so frustrating and so annoying for her. And then she sat in meditation and took a minute for herself, and she realized that actually her soul alignment doesn't want to work right now. That isn't really what she wants to do. That's not listening to her inner faith. Her desire to work was comparing herself to others, pressurizing herself by telling herself that she needs to be bringing in money in order to be valuable enough or contributing enough, or all this outside
Totally.
noise that she was motivated to create this manifestation through, but it actually wasn't in alignment with her soul's calling and the instinct and the intuition which was inside of her. When she sat with it, it was a little bit confronting because she was like, oh my God, is this the truth? I actually don't want to work right now.
Mhm.
And allowing herself the pleasure to be in what's real for her, which is that's not what she wants right now. And if it's not what she wants, it's not what she needs right now either. To stay at
Yeah,
home and be with her children and to focus on her family in ways that culture and society don't shine so much positive light on, was actually her realest desire inside of herself. And
totally.
coming to that was coming to an ease and the loss of frustration and a softening inside of herself and surrendering into feminine flow, because that's really what's there. And so sometimes we find ourselves working towards, you were saying, it's less about what it is inside and it's more about the soul alignment and being in the faith of what's coming up. Even if
Yeah.
what the faith is
Less about
telling
what it
us,
is outside.
yes,
Outside.
yes, and
Yeah.
more about what's inside and coming up. And what happens is sometimes when we are confronted with that, she did, oh, I actually just want to stay at home. There's something in that we question. What do you mean? What do you mean you just want to stay home? You're just going to stay home? What does that even mean? And so we question our faith in
Mm.
what our soul instinct is because of everything that's outside that's telling us don't trust in your inner instinct and your gut. Do what you have to do to earn your keep. Do what you have to do to make impact. Be someone that's productive in the way that culture and society holds.
Totally. And it's so cool. I'm having a moment of deja vu right now from almost a year ago because our last podcast, if you remember, it was called Faith, the Possibility in Faith. Faith is found in the moment when we come back to ourselves. And
Yes.
it's
Oh
so
my gosh.
cool that we're bringing that back in totally intuitively, and how we still really believe, it makes me so happy how we still really believe that. And I think that in religion, again, you use the word of culture and society and certain family constellations and things like that. There's a lot of belief that faith is found outside of ourselves. There can be a plugging into another source besides for the source itself. And some parts of that are very beautiful. Nothing is bad or good, right or wrong. There are aspects of that are really beautiful. And some people say, I once heard that a Rebbe, which is a leader and a guide in a Jewish community, is someone who is able to hold the faith, hold the certainty until somebody is able to catch up. So there's a need for people who have more faith than us sometimes, and elders in faith and in certainty. And also, I really believe that a real leader in faith brings us back to our own internal compass. A real
Mm.
leader in faith brings us back to the God within us. A real leader in faith brings us back to learning to co create with the divine and not with something outside of ourselves. Because faith and instinct will, when we can bring those two together, when we can facilitate the marriage of those inside of our being, a real peace and restoration starts to take place, because then we're not walking in resistance to, we're walking in flow with the flow of life. Last week we spoke about the possibility in flow, being able to understand that our instinct is our faith and our instinct is God within us and outside of us, speaking through us and speaking to us, brings us so much clarity, and also allows us to surrender to the mystery. Because
Mm.
if we're not clear yet, that's also clarity. It means that God is asking us to wait, not to act in haste, not to do something impulsively, not to make something happen just so we're comfortable. If we don't feel a clear yes, then it's God telling us, wait, surrender to divine timing, or work through the constructs or illusions or masks or facades that might be in the way of your clarity. Either one of those things. But a clear yes is not, oh, God left me. God's not speaking to me. God's not speaking through me. Not having a clear yes is just another clear way of God speaking to us. And I think that's super important to talk about.
Yeah, it makes me think about Rivky and I. Besides for doing a podcast together, we also have our Wednesday morning calls where we learn books together, which is part of how this podcast began because we spent a lot of time talking about different topics, guided by different books. And we found that, wow, there's a lot of wisdom coming through, and this would be such a beautiful opportunity to share. So, just a little plug for our Wednesday morning meetings that have been happening for a really long time now. I'm so grateful to them.
I think it's 3 years almost. Something, yeah, it's really crazy.
And time is just a wild thing because every time I
Yeah.
look back, I'm like, what? Even when you mentioned that today and you're like, we've been doing this for a year, I'm like, what? We just leaned into an idea for a minute. We just leaned in. We're like, let's try it. We'll do an episode.
Yeah.
And then just wow, just wow. Talk
Yeah.
about talk about listening to our instinct, talk about trusting in the divine, trusting and going with the flow. Really, the results are unbelievable and astonishing when you look back. You're like, all I did was say yes to one podcast and then
Right.
say yes to a second podcast and say yes to a third podcast. And before you know it, there's a whole slew of podcasts to listen to. It's wild.
Before you know it, we
Before
both
you know
have a second business that we spend a nice amount of time of our life on.
Yeah, just like casual, like in a casual way. And it pays off. But
Because we
anyway,
love you.
in the
Yeah.
book that we
Anyway.
were reading today, it was talking about this idea that how long do we give space to entertain the instinct
Mm,
before we shut it down and continue to create a reality where that's not possible for us
hmm.
anymore? Because there's this idea that if I want something, then I should have it right away. And if it's not here, then forget it. And it's no, I so appreciate the waiting. It's like, how long do I give to that instinctive thought to marinate, to
Yes.
start to manifest, to start to yearn for, to desire for, to awaken something inside of us, to allow it enough time and energy to become magnetic to actually manifest?
Totally, totally.
Yes.
And so many times when there are people in our life who tell us, be practical, be in reality. It's like, I think I was thinking to myself as you were talking, I'm like, how quickly does the reality voice from inside or outside come into your field, come into your brain, whether it's from somebody else who you're running your idea by or yourself? And Kabbalah actually speaks about how important it is to protect your ideas
Mm.
from in spaces of scarcity. Because if anybody listening to this looks back and thinks about certain ideas that they might have had that they shared with people who said things, be realistic, be practical. And if they weren't crazy, which I know you and I are, but not everyone is, then they might listen to those voices. And there's something about the reality voice that stops the marinating of in the instinct, that stops the instinct from being able to fully come through and out and into reality. I am teaching series in the summer, actually. It's I'm calling it the 5-week series, and I'm teaching classes about nervous system regulation and manifestation and abundance and walking with God and energetics, like all these really awesome topics. And one of the topics that I'm super excited about is called the field of how to enter the field of abundance.
Mm.
And what I explain in this class and then help people embody is that the trauma vortex, or the reality of trauma, again, societal, individual, cultural, familial, is a very narrow vision, a very narrow place, a very small place. All we see when we're in trauma brain is what's traumatizing, like right in front of us, and we see it through the lens of that. So we look right, we look left, we look center, we see it through the lens. It's like wearing the opposite of rose-colored glasses. We see the world through this very narrow perspective. The field of abundance is the most different place from the trauma field that can possibly be. The field of abundance, right? Think about trauma vortex. It's like this vortex.
Yeah.
And the
Like a pigeonhole.
field of abundance is actually the field of infinity. And
Mhm.
we cannot enter the field of abundance through the trauma vortex. We have to jump to a totally different frequency, at a totally and completely different frequency. And inside of this field of abundance, reality and practical, of course, exists, but not in the same way that it does in the trauma vortex. So, if you notice in your life, sometimes it's okay, it's good to be in reality, it's good to be practical. For example, if you don't work, you won't make money. That's pretty practical for the most part. But in the field of abundance, there's also space to know that if you don't work, you might be a millionaire. There's possibilities beyond the practical. It includes the practical and beyond.
Mhm.
And the trauma vortex only includes the practical. I feel in my own being allergic. I have an actual allergy to the scarce trauma vortex. If someone tells me, okay, let's be practical, let's be realistic, but I know that they also subscribe and know what it's like to live and venture around the edges of the field of abundance, I'm totally fine with receiving what they're sharing with me. But if I know that it's coming from the trauma vortex, I am allergic to it. There's this thing that comes into my field. It's like this energetic shield. And there's this no that comes into my being where it's no. The trauma in the field will not limit the field of infinity. And the way I do that is by training my subconscious mind and my instinct, most of all, to spot when the realistic or practical thought is coming from someone who has a healthy belief in the field of abundance or someone who's in the trauma vortex now. And even if someone's a healthy person, which many people listening to this are, you can still discern when they're swimming in one or the other frequency. And it's really important to discern that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The question I was going to ask you is, I've been alongside you for a while now, and I watch you. I watch how you hold that boundary with such conviction and how you are manifesting the words that you're speaking. Talk about evidence. I have learned to trust and believe in every word that comes out of your mouth because I know it is coming to life because
Yeah.
I have seen it again and again. And so it's building the certainty and the trust in the abundance field and knowing that you're held and knowing that if this is coming to me, it's because God wants it just as much. And he is using us as the servant and messenger for it because God doesn't have hands or feet. God
Yeah.
doesn't have a voice to speak in the way that it happens in this world. We are his hands and feet. We are the ones who
Mm.
bring his desire to fruition because without us, it can't come to life. He needs us. He needs
Yeah.
us to trust and honor the thing inside of us, the intuition, the radical idea, the wild expression that wants to come through. He wants us
Yes.
to trust it because that's how we walk together. And I witness this in you again. And every time we're like, let's do a retreat and we're going to do it in Israel. And and this is what's going to happen. And I'm like, okay. Like, yes, I trust and believe in the divinity that is you, the calling that's
Mm.
coming through you also. If we can recognize that when other people are speaking what their desire is, they are actually speaking the divinity that's coming through them. And so the possibility is to trust the divine, not only in ourselves, but in others too. And yes, we are humans and we do live in in a finite world and our fears do come to the table. But to really make the distinction in our own reflection of what's my projection here onto your infinity, what
Mm.
here in my reflection towards you is actually my own fear of failure, success, whatever, all the different things that might come into play. Because yes, on our end, it's our responsibility to ourselves to practice discernment. And also our responsibility in ourselves that when we are those people who are offering reflection to tap into the infinite to trust in
Totally.
someone else's divinity, even though I can't dream. Maybe I, in my own limited space, cannot dream of that for myself. But can I hold a dream with you of the thing
Yeah.
that you're feeling that's beyond what's here? Can I trust in whatever's coming through as the divine coming through you, as is the divine coming through me, and meet each other on a little bit more of a superficial level at the end of a yoga class when it's like, the divine in me sees and recognize the divine in you. And so, yeah, it's a little cliche. And yeah, maybe we've said it a million times without really recognize what we're saying. But how deep is that really? How deep is it to really shed all of the outside noise and for my divinity to recognize your divinity and your divinity to recognize my divinity and the infinity and the possibility in faith that becomes the manifestation of the magic that we're in because of that.
I love it. So what's
Yeah.
your question? What's your question for me? I'm so curious. Wait, before you
Well,
ask me your
yes.
question,
Okay,
before you
yeah.
ask me your
I
question, I
got
just have
lost
to,
on that one.
I loved it. I loved it. And it's
Uh,
so true. And I want to add to what you said before you ask me your question because
yeah.
because I was talking to my friend the other day and she told me my friends tend to tell me their wild dreams because they know that I don't ridicule it or bring practical or reality to it. So I am and do see myself as not only like a dream amplifier for myself, but for others. People do tell me it's sometimes more vulnerable to share your dreams than to share your traumas because what your traumas are not the truth of your being, but your dreams are. And
Yes.
that is real vulnerability. I am blessed with being trusted with people's truest vulnerability. And but on a funnier note, one of my friends was telling me the other day that she loves clothes from Brazil. Like she loves that style and there's a few Brazilian brands, but they're really expensive in New York, but I've heard that they're like less expensive in Brazil. So what if I just go on a plane and I go shopping in Brazil and then I come home and I was like, yeah, of course. When are we going? And she just started cracking up and we both started cracking up. She's like, my husband's not going to like you very much. I'm like, and to me, it seemed like such a great, it just seemed like so practical, such a great, honestly, that's more practical for me. You
Oh,
just thought of a
yes.
really practical way to live. And I endorse that 100%. Go
Yeah.
take a suitcase, go on the plane and buy some Brazilian clothing. So yeah,
Love
definitely.
that.
Definitely.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. So I guess the question, which maybe you've answered already, and maybe I've also answered in my reflection of you, but it's how do you walk with that level of faith, that level of conviction that the words that I say actually become the reality. And there was actually this really funny song that Rivky
Yeah.
found because when we created the name, The Possibility in the Universe, she found the song, but we haven't been able to get the copyright. But can you just state the chorus?
It says, the drapes and carpets of my dreams match the drapes and carpets of my reality.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
tell us about what that process is or what that is inside of you.
So there are many ways in which I can answer that question. And if you listen to other podcasts, I'm sure there are ways in which I've answered that question in multiple ways. But the thing that's coming to me that's the most important answer now is really that there's a deeper question to that. It's
Mm,
how did I learn to understand how valuable my words are? How did I
mm,
learn to take myself seriously? How did I begin to learn to understand that my words matter?
mm,
We live in a society where we're creating constantly and we're speaking words and we don't even realize what we're saying. We are walking prophets. We are walking divinity. We are children of God. We're literally energy and motion. We're freaking
yeah.
miracles. But what happened because of trauma? We start to believe that we don't matter as much. We're unworthy. The things that
Mhm.
we're a joke, the things that we say aren't so serious. We're small, we're pathetic, we're little, we're tiny, we're whatever it is. And that is the trauma voice speaking. And what happens when when we create from that the trauma vortex, more trauma, more proof of that reality, more ways in which we are messing up, more ways in which we are pitiful, more ways in which we are a victim, more ways in which we victimize others. But what I've learned in the past few years is to really be able to get in touch with my soul. Remember, faith is found in the moment when we come back to ourselves, to return to our own inner being. And what I've had the opportunity to do, not just with others, but for myself first, was turn every rock that I've been able to yet find in my inner being over and really explore the depths of my consciousness. And when I say consciousness, the depths of my soul, the depths of my loving awareness, the depths of the flavor of the divine that is me. And when
Mm,
I've been able to learn about that through exploration, through play, through healing, through triggers, through all different kinds of modalities, and also through all different kinds of just being present with myself over and over again, slowing things down when I wanted to speed up, all of that. What happened is that I started to really see, oh my goodness, I am an aspect of Hashem. I am a piece of the divine. I see how the things that I say matter. I see the way in which I
mm,
impact others. I see the way, similar to the gluten free, I see the way in which I act and think impacts myself. If I walk into a room with the embodiment of confidence, I see the difference of the way that someone responds to me when I walk into a room with false humility. I see the ways in which my actions cause reactions. I see the way in which I create ripples. And what happened in that space is that I started to also be very careful with my words.
mm. I'm just thinking about the time that you spent with your grandmother learning this book called Shmira Salashon,
Yeah,
this book about really being careful with your words. Like, there's something so powerful in really paying attention. I
yeah,
don't know. When you said
yeah.
that, it just made me think of that.
I think a lot about reverence in this work and in this lifetime. And it's somebody who knows their worth, their true light of their inner being, that they are a soul beyond their trauma,
Yeah.
has reverence for others. We don't gossip, we don't have wars, we don't kill people, we don't other people when we have reverence.
Yes.
It's an epidemic of unworthiness and not mattering that creates realities where we actually treat other people like they are unworthy and they don't matter. And
Yes.
the person that's the most important to treat like we matter and that we're special is ourselves, because when we can do that, really do that, we're actually much kinder to others. Another thing that I will share is that I really spent a lot of time eliminating noise. And what
Mm,
I mean by that is in our fast-paced culture and society, we can, like you said earlier, we can really pass by what our inner being says, especially women, especially from the society that I'm coming from. A lot of people who follow a typical path in the community that I'm coming from get married at 19 or 20 years old. They have 5 or 6 children by the time they're 30 or 35. And their life is moving. They might have a business. If they're more woke, they might also honor their creative voice and their creative vision. And all of these things create a lot of movement, but also can create a lot of distraction from what our soul and our inner being really desires. And the reason why some people try and not stop subconsciously is because they're afraid actually that if they would stop, they might follow their instinct instead of society, and then they won't belong anymore. And really untangling and unraveling all of that allowed me the best of both, to belong to myself,
mm,
most of all, and to understand that I will never not belong because we are children of God. And Francis Weller, who is a teacher that I love to learn from, he wrote the book, The Wild Edge of Sorrow. He always says,
mm.
an elder does not anymore seek spaces to belong. I'm paraphrasing, but creates spaces for others to belong. So
Beautiful.
instead of trying to belong in spaces of people who feel like they're not worthy and they don't matter. I've spent the past few years creating community and creating spaces for myself in friendships and also for my clients where people can really bring all of themselves. And the noise that I was eliminating is the spaces and the places and the people where we can't bring all of ourselves in. And the truthiest truth, which is not our trauma, but our essence.
Beautiful. Wow. Casually returning to ourselves, casually returning to the alignment of our soul and who we are here to be, and being in our purpose and being in our worthiness and being in our divine. What a way. And it was interesting in the group that I hold for the Artist's Way, which is a collective of 12 women, and we really dive deeply into this book together. This past week, we talked about this idea of attracting the community that we desire, because we are talking about moving. And some people are saying, I used to belong to this community. I don't feel so. I feel a little alienated now. I make different choices now. It's not so in alignment with other people. And so it's either how can I fit into what's here, or how can I be the lighthouse to myself that puts out the frequency that is truly me, that then attracts those that on the outside may look different than you, but actually on that soul level, all of what it looks like on the outside and the stereotypes and the ways that it needs to look in order to be a part of a community that we're so focused on actually dissipates, and the soul connection, the realness is there. And it could be in the most unassuming packaging. It really could. The person that when I am in my alignment, and that's the lighthouse where I am buzzing out that light and I'm like, wah, putting out that light. I don't know why it has that sound, but it just does. The attraction is to the essence of what it is. It's not about what it looks like. We're all fixated. Everyone in this community has to dress this way and has to be in this way and only eat in this restaurant and to only do this or have a TV or not have a TV, whatever. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter, because when I clear that away and I go into my soul and I navigate from that place that's in alignment and in honesty, those that may look really different on the outside and may surprise us actually are attracted to that light, and we find our people. I remember seeing on Instagram somewhere it said something, be all of yourself so your people can find you. It's like we live in the masks and the disguise and the illusion or the upkeeping of what it has to look like or what it should be, that we actually don't find our people when we are succumbing to the outside noise. But if we could let go of what it looks like and be with what it sounds like, the listening from the inside or feels like, yes. For me, it comes more in like voice. It's the listening inward that eventually leads to the feeling of the inward, but it comes first for me in words almost. Just the same way the words create, it's the words come into my mind. It's, honey, you need to love yourself. And it's like, oh, what an awakening. What a thought. What an idea that just popped into my head. What a thing to consider following.
Yeah. I think there's something so important about what you're saying. And there's also something I would love to add to it, which is what I'm hearing in what you're saying is in order to come back to our instinct, we also need there's also a space that sometimes needs to happen. If we are enmeshed in an old way of doing things or with community of people that don't necessarily honor the honoring of instinct as God or don't know it about it yet, they might honor it if they would know about it. Or in a scenario like sometimes there's this like liminal space in between who we are and who we're becoming that also shows up in all these spaces with community, with whenever we're making big soul shifts and we're following our instincts. Sometimes like you want new friends, but you first have to stop the old behavior and then wait for the new thing to come. And a lot of times the slowing down is part of the faith. It's, can I slow down enough to listen and then to honor and then to take aligned action? But all of those things need space. It needs space and time to come to us, whether it comes to you in a voice, whether it comes to you in a sensation, whether it comes to you in an intuitive knowing. It needs the space to land. And on that note, I'm curious about two things about you and faith, and I think we'll take this into our ending, is And I'll share as well a little bit, but faith in parenting, I'm really
Mm,
curious about that for you because I know that's something that is very unique about the way that you parent and raise your children, more than anyone I've actually ever met in my life. So it's pretty it's yeah, and I say that with honesty. I've never met anybody who partners with God in such a way that I can actually see it very deeply on the outside in the way that you and your husband raise your children. And I'm also curious about faith in business because I know that you
mm.
started a new business and you've been in business for 2 decades, 20 years. So, like, how does faith intertwine and interact with those two things in your life?
Two totally separate topics. So we'll start with the one with parenting. I believe that I shared this in the first podcast of faith, which we're also going to share, but I'll just reference it and you guys will listen to that one as well. But I think
Yeah, you
that
can share it. I think it's good to hear it.
okay, so I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
the birth of my first child, Avi, happened 3 months early accidentally in South Africa. The rest of the story is on the first podcast, so you'll listen to it there. And what he taught me in his unexpected arrival in the godly timing that was here was such a deep, profound surrender into understanding how little control I have in this
Mm,
world. Because as a young person, I still thought that I can control things. I still had an ego that was like, I could make things happen. I can make things move in the way that I want to. But
right.
going to South Africa and going into labor unexpectedly and then giving birth to my first child in a third world country where I didn't have
Were you
anything set
19
up
years
for.
old?
So I was 20 years old, okay? And gave birth. I remember the irony of I can't even drink a drink of alcohol technically legally, but I can have a kid. I just remember being in that kind
Wow.
of warp in my mind. But in recognizing that even in the things that we could predict, because most women carry until 9 months, and so I assumed I would do the same, even in things that prove itself again and again, I still have no control. And so that learning of a surrender in the depth of what came through birthing a child is the way that I approached my children, is understanding that I don't know. I
Mm,
cannot control. What I have here is the option to really lead into the third partner in the creation of a child, which is God and his knowing for you and trusting that you know for yourself because you have intuition, because you have inner knowing, because you have an inner compass that as much as I think that I could know, I can't for you. Because it says there's this concept in the Torah where it says you can't judge a person unless you're in their shoes. And it's, I can never be in your shoes. I can never see it from your perspective. And the humility in really surrendering to that, in knowing that I play an active role as a role model for you, as in someone who practices what they preach, as in being the embodiment of what I want to offer you. But it is going to be you who chooses. It's going to be you who needs to honor your inner calling. And your inner calling might be different alignment than mine. And I want to
mm.
make space for that. I want to make space to trust that in you. I want to make space to trust that you are divine and it's your divinity guiding. And of course, if it's something super unhealthy or something radically unstable, I am here for it. But if it's a self expression that is not mine, and so I don't really get it, that's none of my business. That's your self
Mm.
expression. That's something that calls to your soul. That's something that makes you feel vital and alive. I want to honor
What
that
would
inside of
you
you.
What would you say? Because I hear how that's faith in not controlling your children, but what would you say to parents? Because there's something that I see in you that I think is really unique. So I want to pull that point of what would you say to parents who really worry about their children's well-being, who harbor a lot of anxiety? And I know that's not something that you hold around your children. So I think people could really benefit from your perspective in that space.
Yeah. I think there's evidence to be building in this space. Like, has worrying for your child actually helped your child? Has it really created impact in the direction that you were hoping for?
Yeah.
Or did it just add to a strained relationship in some way? Did it create more drama than necessary? And now there's more of a falling out than I even wanted to because I was so worried about the falling out. I feel that talk about faith and abundant mindset and also talk about reality. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's really taking the esoteric thing that we think that we're offering, but I want to show that I care. So instead of showing that I care, I'm worrying.
Yeah.
If I didn't worry, I could actually show you that I care. I could actually pick up the phone and be like, "Hey son, how are you?" Instead of worrying
Right.
about how he's doing and dramatizing the possibilities of where he's at or what's going on or what must be, I could actually do the act, which is underneath the worrying, is that I care, and make
Yeah.
the motions in the direction of what that truly is, which is going on a walk with my daughter because she seems a little
Right.
distraught. Instead of being like, oh my God, she's so distraught. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me call everyone
Right.
in my family and be like, I don't know what's going on. She's so distraught. I don't know what's going to be. It's just go on a walk with your daughter and ask her what's going on and
Right.
care in the way that you actually want to, instead of getting caught up in the whirlwind of I'm going to worry about it and somehow that's giving purpose towards the thing. It's an
Again,
illusion.
again, it's helping me see in another way and helping us see in another way how faith is found in the moment when we come back to ourselves. Faith in parenting also. It's like there's this when we're leaving ourselves, we're not inviting Hashem, God, into the space. Like we're
Yes.
not, when we see ourselves leaving ourselves, when we see ourselves ruminating, when we see ourselves in urgency or in worry, we're in the trauma vortex. We're in an old story. We're not connected to our instinct, to our knowing. And there's something that I would actually love to add to this before we go into the next thing. Having worked with so many parents and children, it's this: you know what to do. You
Yes.
know what to do. You have so much more wisdom inside of you. You've been trained to ask outside of yourself. You've been trained to learn that somebody knows better than you. You've been trained to know that you know someone better than they know themselves. And a big thing in faith and parenting, I believe, is not to raise your children with the belief that you know them better than they know themselves. Is not to raise your children with this belief that these people or this person outside of themselves might know them better than their instinct, but to really help them connect with their own instinct and their own inner knowing instead of being like, Ma, what should I do about this? As simple as, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And not being so definitive, not being so controlling, not also questioning your children's dreams. I think that often
Mm.
parents question their children's dreams because they're afraid that their child's going to fail. They want to shield their child from the experience of failure. But what if they don't? What if they fly? And also, what if they fail? Maybe that's part of their soul's constellation. And often there have been so many dreams that I've heard people have, and their parents are like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't,
Mm.
you're never going to be able to do that. And it's no, similar to of course, you could go to Brazil and go shopping. Even if you have to say no to a child, let's say they're 7 years old and they're like, I want to go to, I don't know, a sleepover and my friend in a different state and you can't do that. You can be like, yeah, you could for sure do that when you're a little older. There's so many ways to empower our children that they could do what they want to do when they within the framework of our boundaries. And I think that's like a lot of faith.
Yeah, I think that also part of why, or in my experience of speaking with people too, is why we shut down their dreams is because we take radical responsibility to be the one to bring their dream to life.
Wow.
And so when we take on that responsibility and we don't think that we can, we shut their dream down.
Is
No
that
one.
true for a lot of parents that you know?
Yes, I felt
Uh,
a little kid and we're like, I really want to go to Israel. And because a parent feels like at the state that this child's in, it would be her responsibility to take their child to Israel, that she says, no, we can't go. It's if you want to go to Israel, you're going to go to Israel. I don't need to be the one to take you there right now in this moment. But if I'm taking the responsibility to be the one, then I'm shutting down your dream because maybe
So
right.
how would you respond to that? How else would you? say that a parent could respond to that in a more productive way?
I think that we can tell our children that they can believe in their dreams. Is that you want to go to Israel? I want that for you too.
I've
How
heard you say
amazing would
that
it
to your kids.
be?
I've heard
Yes,
you
like
say
how,
things like that.
and let's dream with it. Maybe right now in this limited moment, I don't see how, but if we invest in the dream together, maybe it actually could come to life. But I think the radical responsibility we take to be the one to fill every morsel of our child's desire, which is not our job. No one asked you, is why we take it away from them. But if we can let them have their dreams and let them entertain their dreams, let's draw a picture of what it would be like to be on the airplane. Let's, whatever. Maybe it's not going to happen this moment, but it doesn't mean that they can never happen for them or they can't ever entertain that idea inside of their own being. Let them dream. I remember I received a reflection from my own daughter because I was doing this embodied photo shoot and I was creating this costume and she was hearing me talk about it in the house and I was telling her I'm going to embody this bird woman and she saw me order a bunch of stuff on Amazon and I was like clipping pictures from different things and she was watching it and the next day she woke up in the morning and the costume was hanging in the bathroom and she's, "Oh my God, Mom, you just say the thing that you want to bring to life and then it just happens."
Yeah.
It's yes. Yes, because that's the possibility. If we don't dampen our own dream and we trust and believe in the intuition that's coming through for ourselves and for others, and we don't take responsibility for other people's dreams because it's their dreams, all I get to do is harness that with you. All I get to do is believe in what you believe in your desire that you have and be like, yeah, let's entertain the idea. Let's make it with Lego. Let's create it in other ways where we can feel into that experience. Does it mean when I'm going on a plane tomorrow? Not necessarily, but that's not the point. The point is by sharing my dream and telling you, Mommy, I would love to go to Israel, doesn't mean you need to take me today. It just means, can you be with me in my imagination? Can you foster and nurture my desire? Can we play in the space? And by the way, when we do create that reality, because those things actually come to fruition, because that's the nature of listening inward. That's the nature of honoring and fostering what the instinct and what the intuition is saying. That's the nature of honing our divinity and not and stepping away from the scarcity mode of like, I need to be the one to do this. If I need to be the one to do this, practically it's not happening. Shut the dream down.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think we have to start wrapping up, so we'll leave the other question for now.
Ooh, I love
But
a little hanging question in the air just to like
yeah,
float around.
I
Yes.
mean, faith in business, it can be a whole series, like we love to say, and maybe we will. Maybe we'll do possibility in faith in business as its own podcast. But what I will say as a little cliffhanger is that God is I know for myself and I know for you, God is my business partner. And when you bring God to work, God shows up. And I always tell my clients this, and I'll leave you with this. I do these events, a lot of in person experiences, and they're very transformative experiences. And people write these beautiful testimonials, and I share them online. And at the beginning of each experience in recent months, I've been saying, some of you guys are here and you've read these testimonials online. And you might think, oh, I'm at this place with this really magical lady who's going to like bring me to my desires. And there's an aspect of truth to that because there's an aspect of magic, the magic of mattering and the magic of believing in God that I'm tapped into. And we all have that inside of us. And when we can really allow ourselves to bring God into the space, God can bridge the gap between the finite of our humanity and infinity. And once that gap is filled, we're in the field of abundance. We're in the field of infinity. I invite you in the end of this podcast to pray to God, to bring just the awareness of God, consciousness into your life and into each moment and in a more heightened way and watch what happens.
Mm.
Watch how walking with God, praying to God, being with God, bringing God into business, bringing God into parenting, bringing God into friendship, bringing God into relationship does what you can't alone do. because the work and the life and the manifestations don't happen alone. They happen in co-creating with God. So starting from recognizing the divinity within us and bringing the divinity outside of us more and more into our consciousness and awareness until we are swimming in the field of infinity. Yeah.
Amen.
Till next
Thank you,
time.
Rivky. Till next time. Mwah.
We are so humbled and delighted to have you with us. Our podcast is Real Life in Real Time, where we embark on curious conversations that expand our awareness and capacity for all that is possible.
The Possibility of the Universe podcast is only possible because of you, our audience. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for listening. I'm Chani. First and foremost, I am a believer. I am a wife. I am a mother of 6 beautiful children, and I am the owner of Grassroots Brooklyn, an experiential art collective and floral atelier. I am also a life coach working with both individuals and couples to empower them to step into all of their own possibilities in this universe. You can find me on Instagram at Makom Sanctuary and on my website, www.grassrootsbklyn.com.
Hi, I'm Rivky, and I love life. I love heart-centered living. I love to be curious, and I love to connect with all things. I started off as a social worker and developmental therapist, and now I work as a somatic and subconscious practitioner using modalities such as somatic healing, breathwork, bodywork, hypnotherapy, and some really magical and incredible quantum healing technologies. I work with individuals, couples, run retreats and courses using these modalities to help people find the most freedom, presence, aliveness, and embodiment inside of their lives. The ways to contact us are through my website, rivkygross.com. That is spelled RIVKY dash, the straight line dash, gross, GROSS.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Chani at Makom Sanctuary, and myself at Rivky Gross. We are here for any and all questions and feedback through the contact form on the website, and we're so looking forward to hearing from you.